Alright, this is part 2 of Vid1 Intro to Flash. We will pick up where our part 1 left off and we will move forward. Alright, some of the things that you will use first. Intro to Toolbar and Tools. That's actually not the toolbar, it's the tool palette. And how it is like Adobe products. Well, we've talked about that, so we're going to go back to the tools for a moment, and I'm going to call this a P-A-L-E-T-T-E. Who knows? What's it going to say? No, it doesn't like that spelling. Palette. All right, so there we have a tool palette, and so let's go back and look at that a second. All right, we talked about this. We have our selection tool and a sub-selection tool. All right, again, when we need it, we'll talk more about it. But let's look at some of the tools you will use most often. You have a text tool. So let's do this. Let's do TEXT and SH. We'll talk about text and shape. If I want to put something in a particular or on a particular layer, I need to click so that that layer is selected. Now, I am going to suggest, and I'll do this multiple times, I'm going to lock everything and then I'm going to unlock the layer I want to use so that I can't, by a mistake, put something somewhere else. All right, so notice that I have a fill color of white on a white background. That's pretty useless. So let's highlight this and we'll pick dark blue. Now, the other thing I did was I centered it so that it sort of pushes it around, which is not necessarily a good thing. Now, notice that I still have my text tool selected. I know that because my cursor is an X with the T in it. If I come over and click on the selection tool, I can now move this wherever I want to. And I know I've selected it when I have the outline. All right, so let us now save this. Project-E. All right. All right, now I'm going to relock that layer. I'm going to unlock the shape layer. I'm going to select that. And now the shapes that I have, if you'll notice, he says, if you click on the little, all right, notice that there is a small triangle right here. Hopefully I will be able to get that. Let's see. Or just hold down on it. I have a rectangle, an oval. I've never really used the primitives and the polystar tool. I'm going to let you play with that on your own. I'm going to do the rectangle. And now on my properties menu, I have something called stroke color and fill color. The stroke is the line around the outside, and the fill, strangely enough, is the color on the inside. Let's make the stroke a little bit bigger so we can see it. And if you get excited, you can use many different varieties. All right, so let us draw a rectangle. All right, now you can't really see because I didn't make it big enough. Oop. And I just changed it to black. But now you can see that there is a line around the outside and a fill color. A couple of things that you're going to want to do is be able to set the X and the Y position, possibly if you need to get things exactly where you want them. And then I can set the height and the width. So that if for example, what I really wanted was a square, 1, 1, 2, there we go. Then I get a square by making both of those the same. All right, that's what I really wanted. All right, so I've drawn my rectangle and I have made it into a square. But if you'll notice that if I simply click on the middle gets hashed and I can effectively drag that out. And if I undo, then I get it back again. If I click on the outside, I only get whichever line I have clicked on. If I drag around the entire rectangle, both of them are now hashed, and I can move the whole thing. That will become very irritating at some point, I'm sure. All right, and I want this to be 1, 0, 0, so I have my square. There we go. I'm back to a square. Now, what can I do about that? You either remember to do that. If I double click, I get it all. Or once I have exactly the item I want, I can modify and group. That makes this whole thing one object, and it drags nicely. If you decide at some point that's not what you want, you can ungroup it. Okay? What's my point? My point is that I do that way too often. I have to come back and do this and then move the item. So be aware that that may or will happen to you when you're using simple objects. All right, I have a pencil tool, which strangely enough draws squiggly lines. I have a paint tool, and I can adjust what it looks like. You know, how big is it? So I can fill things in. I have an ink bottle for filling, and I have a bucket. So if I choose the bucket and I get a green, then I can change the color of the whole mess at once. I've got an eyedropper, so I can say, oh yeah, that's the color. And then, why did though? Because I got the paint bucket. There we go. All right, I have an eraser tool, strangely enough, so that you can erase. And again, I can change it to a large square and come in and erase all of this stuff. Wasn't that fun? A hand tool, let's see, the hand tool moves the entire stage around. Magnifying glass will make things bigger. You can also, I suspect, under view, zoom out, which will make it smaller, or do command minus. Command plus will make it bigger. All right. I have a color for the pencil tool. I have a color for the bucket. The pencil tool is also the stroke color. I can click so that this will get smaller, or I can come over here and click and make it bigger. All right, I think that's probably enough for the moment. So, to recap, he says, we started Flash. You either have it already on your dock and can click to start it, or you can go to applications and find it there. Save early, save often. I did not do that as often as I should. So Command S for save. You need to choose ActionScript 2.0. That is very important to you. So let's emphasize that. Bam. Okay. We looked at the parts of the screen and how to find them. Okay. We went to the window and we found the timeline, the tools, and the properties. So you should be able to do that. We showed you where actions were. We showed you the stage and the space around it. We took a very quick look at the menus, we talked about layers, and we showed you some of the tools in the tool palette that you will use. All right, enough.